What's up, guys? Gonna be working on something new here in the simulator. I want to replace my simulator flooring. Not really happy with how things are pieced together right now, but I want to create a nice, flush, even surface throughout this whole simulator area. You know, it kind of starts with my hitting mat. So I've got the SIGPro Softy hitting mat, which if you've seen all the different hitting mat reviews I've done on the channel, you know that I reviewed a bunch and I stuck with the SIGPro Softy. But the problem is that it is 2.5 inches thick. That means if you want to build up the floor to match it, you've got to come up with 2.5 inches to line up to it. What I've got now is I've got the puzzle piece gym flooring mats that I bought on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description if you want to know where I got these or which ones they are. They are 1 inch thick, and I pretty much just have them on the floor from the front of my hitting mat all the way to the screen, and my enclosure is sitting on them. So that whole area is 1 inch, and you can see there is a drop off in the front of the hitting mat. For my putting area, I've got a Big Moss custom putting green that I ordered from Big Moss Golf that was supposed to fit this area, and it used to, but I upgraded my enclosure from the original DIY enclosure to their new C-Series enclosure, which has a screen that goes all the way to the floor. The old one had kind of a flap that went across the bottom and it actually stuck out. And so this area here was meant to be covered by the flap, which it no longer is. And it's just not a good fit anymore. So I've got the ramp, which is just helpful to roll the balls back up onto the mat. Overall, it's a great putting surface. I enjoyed putting on it. It's very fast. I think they said it was like a 13 stimp, but I want to try something different. Go for that full uniform look where everything is one level. So I've got a roll of putting turf and I've got a bunch of 1 inch thick foam insulation board that I am going to use to kind of go on top of the gym mats that I already have, because I only need another inch, and then build up around the SIGPro Softy hitting mat and then lay the turf down and cut out the area for the SIGPro Softy. Hopefully the turf will cover all the way around the SIGPro Softy and behind it, and will be a nice even 2.5 inch surface for the entire simulator area. That's what I'm going for. I've got to pretty much get all this stuff out of the area. Here's the hard part. I'm gonna try and do this without taking down my enclosure. I want to see if I can slide everything under it. It would be a pain to take it apart and then have to reassemble it. We'll see how it goes. Got everything cleared out of here. Now you can see the 1 inch gym tiles here. I definitely could have just ordered more of these and stacked them on top to get to 2 inches, but I wanted to try out the foam board insulation. Honestly, the price would have been about the same, but these are 2 inch squares and I could buy the insulation board in 4x8, so it seemed like just less work. They're both easy to cut with the utility knife. Okay, just got the front putting area down. My initial thought was that I would use the full length boards up by the mat and then some cut up pieces towards the back, because those would not matter as much. Not sure about that. I'm kind of thinking about switching it, but I don't want to. But just to show you, there are some like gaps. That's about maybe 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 inch gap between these panels. I have almost exactly 12 feet width-wise, and so I did have to cut one of these boards just to make these three fit. It's like 143 inches or something like that, and they just were slightly off from fitting perfectly. And then back here I do have some bigger gaps that I don't know, maybe I'll try to piece together. That's almost a 1/2 inch right there on these, and then that one's definitely very snug. I don't know right now how much of a factor these little gaps between the boards are going to make once the turf is down, if they're going to matter at all, or if it is going to make the turf kind of wobble a little bit. The other thing, and I've heard this before, you might be able to see it in the light, but like every time I put my knee down on this foam, it does make an indentation. I don't really see anything with my footsteps, but it's just like having that pressure at one point, like on your kneecap or putting your hand down. My thought with that was that I didn't think it was going to make much difference when the turf goes down, but I guess we will find out. Okay, another stage complete. Finally got hitting mat framed out with all my 2-inch material, 1-inch material stacked on each other, and this is pretty much going to be the base of the floor. Doubled up foam tiles over here because this stuff does not dent at all and my computer will stand there. This I've got doubled up insulation, and then over here got one layer of gym mats and then one layer of insulation. Now I think is going to be the hard part, because I've got to take this roll of turf and set it here and unroll it and try and get the end to slide under my enclosure. And also I mentioned that from wall to wall is like maybe 1 inch short of 12 feet. This roll is 12 feet wide. I think that means I'm gonna have to lay it out and then trim 1 inch off of the side, one side or something like that. It's gonna be very difficult with that enclosure in the way. Okay, before I continue, I just wanted to show you the turf that I got. This is called Money Putt, and it is probably one of the 2 types of turf that I see used in home simulators the most often. It's supposed to be very good because it does not require a sand infill. Just starting to unroll it and noticing that it is pretty much exactly the same color as the turf on my SIGPro Softy. In fact, it may be the same exact turf. I'm willing to bet. It is probably going to be a really good choice for me and look very nice when it's all rolled out. I've got a 12-foot by 15-foot roll that hopefully I can get down. Wish me luck. Okay, had to disassemble my Carl's Place enclosure. It just wasn't gonna work, and I should have known better. Every time I try to take a shortcut and get away with something like that, it just ends up being way more work. So after that, really wasn't too hard to get the turf down. I think I've got it pretty much how I want it. It's easier to see maybe with more lights, but I've got it to about 6 inches of the back there. It's gonna be really hard to get it perfect all the way lined up in the back, but it's pretty straight, and you can kind of see where it goes over the SIGPro Softy there. I'll be cutting that out, and then I've got about a foot extra, which is what I planned for. One thing is that whenever I did try to take a shortcut, I tried to roll it up the other way, so it came on the roll 12 feet wide, and then I've got 15 of length. I tried to roll it the 15-foot side up so that I could slide it into the middle and then roll it out to the edges. That didn't work, but it did kind of give me some wrinkles that were not there before. When I first unrolled it, the turf looked absolutely perfect, and now there's some pretty bad wrinkles in there that I'm not happy with, and I'm hoping if I let it lay flat overnight, it will come out, at least in the next couple of days. I've got to stop here. When I'm fresh, I will be cutting out the hitting mat next. Pretty much just finished up the flooring, pretty much everything I need to do to get it set. First off, I ordered this style putting cup with a removable flag and the cup from Birdie Ball. These cups, they actually have like a lip around it here. So you have the inside of the cup, but then this lip extends probably a ½ inch between both sides. So my concern with that is whenever I cut the hole, I don't want to cut a hole that's bigger than the cup. And so I think this is made to cut in your material and then lift the material up and stick it in from underneath. So I don't know if this is going to work for me. So instead of using these, I bought just more of a traditional putting cup. This is from One Stop Sim Shop. I believe this is the shallow putting cup that's 1 1/4 inch deep. So my thinking is just go through the top layer of 1 inch material, and then you've got about a 1/4 inch to fall within the turf line as well. So before cutting into my actual flooring, I've got 2 pieces of 1 inch insulation here and a scrap piece of turf. And I'm going to honestly try both of these and see how they work. The other thing I bought from Birdie Ball is this hole cutter. It's basically just got metal teeth all the way around it, and you just stick it where you want it and twist it. This is the metal version. I think they make a plastic one as well, but they, I believe, recommend metal for going through turf. So I figured that was a safe assumption to make. So like I said, we've got 2 layers of insulation. I've got some scrap turf on top, and I'm just gonna see how this hole cuts. We'll find out here. Well, there's the hole in the turf. All right, I don't like the way this is going. I pulled the turf off and just tried to cut through the foam just to see how it would go. And stomping on it worked better than twisting it. But if you look really close, this handle is attached to the outside of the circle. And this handle is now hitting the foam. So that makes sense. I didn't think about it. But that depth there is only about 3/4 of an inch or less. And I'm trying to get down 1.25 inches. So as soon as I get to where it's hitting that handle, it's stopping it and I can't go any deeper. I can make the hole bigger, but it's not what I want. So I don't know that this is gonna work. I think I need to go to the hardware store. All right, so I went to the hardware store and picked up a 4.25 inch diameter hole saw. I think this is gonna be the way to go. And I went ahead and took a Sharpie and just kind of marked the depth that I think it needs to go. And we are back on our scrap piece of turf here. So let's see what happens. Cool. Does not like this turf. Maybe I need to go much slower. Oh, wow. Okay. We got 1 cup. That was a little bit scary. What I did was very lightly let it cut through the turf without putting any pressure down on it. And then once I felt it get through the turf, then obviously it would go straight through the foam. But it was a very kind of just hovering on the turf. Finished result looks not bad. I wonder if this handheld blade would be easier to punch through the turf, get it started, and then go from there. Okay. Definitely see a circle, just line up to that. Not looking great. Okay, so here's my practice holes. You can see it kind of twists the turf up. Doesn't look great here. This hole's the same way, but when you drop it in, it's a perfect fit with both of these, so. I'm a little bit nervous to cut the holes in my actual turf. I like the way it looks right now with no holes, so I'm not sure what I'm gonna do. All right, after much debate, I've decided that I'm just gonna put a single putting cup over here on the right side. Having the Big Moss putting mat for a while, I was always putting towards the screen, and I actually really like the look of this turf with nothing in between the mat and the screen. I was debating on whether I should do like the 2 holes up there by the screen. Also, the light is all coming from behind me, and so whenever I'm putting, I'm basically putting into the darkness. I thought I would put this one here, potentially do the other one over there so I could be putting across instead of down towards the screen, and I could also go back in the corner of the screen and putt this way. But for now, I'm just gonna do this one. It's also in a kind of an out of the way place that I'm not gonna have to see it if I totally screw it up. I took a Sharpie and marked the hole in the center of the cup where I want it. Now we're just gonna give it a shot, see if I can make this look nice and clean. Wish me luck. Okay. For some reason, the foam did not come out like it did when we practiced. Let me grab a screwdriver, see if I can pry this out. Yeah. And there's our putting cup. There's a couple pieces of frayed turf here. I'll grab a knife and see if I can just clean that up. Okay. Not a bad fit. Show you how this looks. Not too bad. Just a little bit of fraying here on the turf. I'm sure that'll get better over time, or I can clean that up a little bit more. Okay guys, all done with this simulator flooring rebuild, and I just want to go over a couple key points and things that I learned over the whole thing. Number one, the insulation board I do not like as much as the puzzle piece gym floor mats. If they're the same price, I would go with the floor mats. They are in smaller pieces, so it's gonna be a little bit more work putting it down, but you should only have to do it once. They're just a more durable, cleaner cut, better fit material. So I would have just doubled up on it to make it 2 inches. The other thing I probably would have done, because I mixed them up, I would have put the insulation board on the ground first and then done the gym mats on top. And on that topic, all those little gaps that I had, I'm really not noticing anything in the turf. Also the dents from being on my hands and knees in that board, I'm not seeing it make a difference. I'm not seeing any wrinkles in the turf itself. Turf is very nice. Those wrinkles kind of went away almost immediately. It's definitely a 2-person project. I did this whole thing by myself, made it much harder, and I am just ready to be done with it. Also, make your entire floor, roll out the turf, put your hitting mat on top of all of that, trace the hitting mat and cut it in. Don't do like I did, and you probably won't if you're starting from scratch. I created a kind of frame around where my hitting mat would go, cut the turf, and I just totally screwed up one edge around the hitting mat. I was able to cut a tiny, tiny strip of turf and fill it in there to patch it. And it's really not noticeable now, but it definitely bugs me. Now I did make a runway for the Mevo Plus to sit on. So it is all one surface all the way from the Mevo Plus all the way to the screen. All I did with that was took 2 layers of the insulation board and the turf. I made it 24 inches wide by 6 feet. And so whenever I want to use Mevo Plus, I just pull that piece out, line it up with my hitting strip, sit it on there, and it's a perfect runway for the Mevo Plus. Also on that, I've got wires running across for my swing cameras, and that runway, I just cut an angle down at lengthwise so that I could fit cables along the bottom on the ground and it wouldn't sit on them and raise it up. It does allow me to run them underneath that runway nice and clean and hide those wires as well. Now the putting turf itself, I like a lot. Putting on it is a much more realistic speed than the Big Moss putting green. Nothing wrong with the Big Moss green. Like I said, it runs about 13 stimp. I have no idea what I would say this is, but I would say it's a little bit more of a realistic putting speed. I would say after it's all said and done, the biggest improvement from before and after is just having everything on a single level. I don't have to mess with the golf ball to try to get it back up on top of the mat. I don't have to run it up the ramp. It's just all on a single surface. It's much, much nicer. I like that a lot about it. It also looks cleaner. I think that's pretty obvious. Now I did say that the turf was an exact match with the SIGPro Softy. It is slightly different. They're very, very close, but it is a different shade. So I would say it's extremely close. As for the edging around the back of the mat, I've seen a few different things used. I've seen obviously 2x4s that you could frame the back of your mat and flooring with. That's probably a good option. I've also seen garden edging that you can get to like edge like a flower bed or whatnot. You could do that. I haven't decided what I'm gonna do. For now, I just had all this extra gutter foam that I can actually push up against it. And that's really just to keep golf balls from running off of it. I do have to have some flexibility because I take that piece up for the Mevo Plus and reposition it when I use that. So I can't like frame that in permanently. So for now, I'm just pushing the garage foam up against the back of it. I already had that and that'll do for now. Final thoughts, if you like the look of this, it's worth going for. You do have some expense with all the floor mats, the turf. It is a good look. Turf is hard to deal with, and I've got not an open space, but I've got basically 3 walls that I'm working with to try to fit that in. And I did that with one person. Probably would have been much easier if I just asked a friend to help me, but it was a little bit more of a project than I should have taken on by myself. Now that it's all said and done, I don't want to mess with it at all. I'll leave it like this. I'm pretty happy with it. If you're looking for more of like a complete kit, the other thing that I was looking at was the SIGPro flooring, which is a complete kit for simulator flooring. It's basically plastic tiles that fit together. It comes with the SIGPro Softy insert, which is my favorite hitting strip, and turf on top with putting holes all in there. And if you ever move, obviously you can just roll that up and take it with you. If I moved, I don't think that most of this would be reusable just because it's fit for this specific shape. Plus all that insulation board is not that durable like I mentioned, so it may be scrapped. But yeah, Grasstex Money Putt, Love the turf. The putting cups from Birdie Ball were too big to fit in a 4 1/4 hole. You have to slide them in from underneath. Didn't know that, and obviously I couldn't do that. That and the handheld cutter was pretty much just a waste of money for me. The putting cups from One Stop Sim Shop fit perfectly. I got the 1 1/4 inch depth, which worked out just like I had hoped, and got to go with the drill. It's just the way it worked. And even with the drill, it wasn't easy getting through that turf without it just totally shredding. So hopefully I made enough mistakes that you guys could learn from it and make your project much easier. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, guys.